firing up the crowd at a campaign rally in Ohio, wrapping just a short time ago. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. And thanks to all of you for once again making Justice #1 last weekend. We have a big show on deck with brand new reaction to President Trump's rousing speech. Anthony Scaramucci, Dinesh D'Souza, Charlie Kirk all standing by. And my open is just moments away. But first, some highlights from the president's rousing rally in Ohio in support of congressional candidate Troy Balderson running in Tuesday's special election. Take a look.
They talk about the elite. The elite. Do you ever see the elite? They're not elite. You're the elite. You are the elite. You're smarter than they are. You make bigger incomes. You've got everything going, you know, so let them keep calling themselves. You ever hear it? Hey, you go to the best schools. You do a tremendous job. You own companies. You work for tremendous salaries. You do all the things that you do. You're talented with your hands, with your mind. And then you hear, the elite has just said. The elite. They're more elite than me. I have better everything than they have, including this. Became president and they didn't, meaning you became president. Jim Jordan, how great is he? What courage. I'll tell you what, there's a brave, tough cookie, along with some of his friends. They are, you know, I just looked, I didn't know he was going to be here. I looked over, I said, I don't want to wrestle him. He's tough. They're talking about this blue wave. I don't think so. I don't think so. Maxine Waters is leading the charge. Maxine. She's a real beauty. Maxine. A seriously low IQ person. Seriously. My wife, the First Lady, Melania, said, the women really like you. They do like me. And I like them. But I said, how did we win the women? We won the women. That was a little surprise to a lot of people. But not if you've been to the rally. Look at all those pink posters. Wow. Thank you. So the women's unemployment rate is not the lowest ever recorded. It's only the lowest level in 65 years. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 65 years.
More on the fiery rally and reaction to it throughout the show tonight. But now to my open. You know, there are no secrets anymore. The New York Times, which we all knew bent over backwards to lean left, is now officially a leftist, progressive, socialist newspaper. There is no objective journalism anymore. It is a newspaper for a certain mindset only. They as much as admitted it this week. When? When their latest editorial board hire, Sarah Jeong, an Asian woman, is outed for her cop-hating, Caucasian-hating, male-hating social media messages, the Gray Lady responds with a, what difference does it make answer. And the Washington Post poo-poos the hate with this namby-pamby headline. Is it okay to make fun of white people online? As if F the police or we should kill all men is humorous. Jeong has certainly given deeper thought than most of us to hate-filled tweets and their consequences since she herself wrote a book about online harassment. Now, ask yourselves if any of the following sound like comedy to you. Cops are a-holes. Why don't we ever talk about banning police? F the police. We should kill all the men. Oh, man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men. Or hashtag cancel white people. F white women. Now, we're not just talking about a writer for the Times. We're talking about an editorial board member, an esteemed and prestigious position at any newspaper. The editorial board is looked up to for direction by journalists. And the newspaper that has always prided itself on being there for the forgotten and on being open-minded, fair-handed, and at the citadel of the newspaper publishing world is now admitting to its own hypocrisy. By defending Zhang, they're saying it's okay to be racist if your target is white. And they even say all the outcry is over old tweets, as if 3 years ago is old. And they say as a young Asian woman, she's been subject to online harassment, as if hating cops or whites is okay if you say you've been harassed. But even more revealing is Zhang's own statement that her comments were not aimed at the general audience. Pray tell, saying F the police is about as general an audience as you can get. And someone who has a job at the New York Times as a wordsmith should know the difference between a specific and a general audience. It's specific when it's against one police officer. It's general if it's against all law enforcement and the whole group of them. You know, the bigotry is alarming. As recently as a few weeks ago, the New York Times goaded its readers into an editorial to fight the nomination of the latest Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. Quote, to take a line from The Godfather, this is the New York Times, it's time to go to the mattresses. Really? The Godfather? Now, it's been a while since I've seen The Godfather, but last I recall, going to the mattresses meant that one family was going to wipe out another. But you're not surprised. You already knew this, didn't you? I'm tired of the elitists telling me and everyone else to not believe our lying eyes when the truth is so painfully obvious. Whether it's Peter Strzok saying he hated and despised Trump and would stop his becoming president, but it did not affect his work when he's the one who began the counterintelligence investigation against Trump that we are still living with. Or Zhang's defenders saying there is no evidence her tweets had any bearing on her work. It appears the old gray lady has finally flipped her wig. Time to go to the mattresses on a Supreme Court justice? Really? Here's my favorite quote from The Godfather. We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Stop your resistance, stop your obstruction, stop the hypocrisy, and get on board with making America great again, or get the hell out of the way. And that's my open. And if you love my opening statements, you'll love my new book, New York Times #1 bestseller, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And President Trump giving a fiery speech tonight, hitting on a number of major topics, all while urging Ohioans to vote for Republican State Senator Troy Balderson in Tuesday's special election. Joining me now with reaction to the rally and so much more, former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci. Good evening, Anthony.
Hey, great to be with you, Judge. Congratulations on the book. I read it last week. It's fabulous.
Oh,
a lot of laugh out loud funny parts in there.
I appreciate it. All right, listen, you know, the president tonight, and you and I both know, what are they going to say? He gets energy from his audience. It goes back and forth, and I think he's at his strongest when he's in front of an audience like the one he was tonight. But, you know, when the Democrats go forward in this special election on Tuesday, what are they going to say? The economy's rotten. We're not safe anymore. What are they going to say?
Well, I'm going to go back to your book. Their playbook is that the Republicans are racist, that they're xenophobic. It's all of this identity politics, and it's all of this politics of division. They can't really argue the policies. They can't really argue the state of the economy or rising wages for the Hispanic American or African American communities. And so they try to divide and they try to hit you with ad hominem attacks, Judge. So that's what they'll do. But tonight, what I loved about tonight is that the president was unleashing his vintage true self. And it made me think back to 2 years ago during the campaign. And this is something, frankly, that other presidents don't do, is get out on the campaign and rally people the way he is. Yeah. He's going to be so fresh and so ready for 2020 and right in through the midterm elections here. So you got to love the fact that it's a Saturday night. He could be in Bedminster relaxing, but he's in a 110-degree auditorium giving that kind of a rousing speech.
Yeah, and you know, that's a great point. The man is a nonstop worker. But I want you to listen to this sound of him tonight. Take a listen.
A vote for Troy's opponent is a vote for open borders, which equals massive crime. Like, they don't care about it. They don't care about the crime. They don't care about your military, and they don't care about your vets. The new platform of the Democrat Party is to abolish ICE and let's not worry about crime. Oh, really? Doesn't work that way.
I don't know who wouldn't agree with that. You?
Well, listen, it's a very bad strategy for them. So what's happened is the president is a human wrecking ball for the Democratic Party, and he set off the alarm bells on the far left. And so all of these politicians that want to run for president are racing towards the far left, and that's their third rail. That will be their ultimate demise. And so I don't want to be a Democratic strategist here on your show, Judge Jeanine, but let me tell you, it is the absolute wrong strategy for them, and they're playing right into the president's hands. And so he speaks in a common sense way to common people. And I'll tell you what, when you listen to him speak, like I did in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, my dad's hometown,
right. And my dad's hometown is Scranton.
Yeah, there you go. So my dad's from Plains, you know, maybe 15 minutes from Scranton. And right there, I'm thinking to myself, these people relate to him. He's the blue-collar billionaire president. He's able to tap into their joy. He's able to tap into their aspirations. And by the way, the policies have been phenomenal. So it's going to be very hard for them to argue against what the president is actually putting on the table for everyday average Americans.
All right. Anthony, I want to ask you this question. And, you know, the GDP and the tariffs. The president said tonight, if we get the trade deficit down, the GDP goes up. Now, you get finance. This is your forte. He talked about the fact that we've rebuilt China with a $500 billion a year trade deficit. It's time that we rebuilt our own country. And everybody understands that. But this whole thing with tariffs, you know, they talk about the fact that, you know, it's not a good thing for America. They're going to hurt us. Explain this to me.
Okay, so just briefly, the president's position is that the trade system since the end of World War II has been unbalanced. The U.S. did that to help build the rest of the world after the devastation of World War II. And with China's introduction into the World Trade Organization, they came in as a developing nation 17 or 18 years ago. And so the president's point is, we rebuilt the world. We helped the Chinese. They're the second largest economy now. The world has to turn around now and allow us to have a symmetrical trading system where it's free and fair trade, where their tariffs come down. And oh, by the way, if you're not going to bring your tariffs down, we're going to raise our tariffs to meet your tariffs. And so I think what I liked about the strategy is it's finally getting people to the table. You know, the president of the EU, Juncker, was in town last week, and now they've got an impasse or a ceasefire. And I think the president will eventually get his way. I've had 2 or 3 conversations with him about this. The most recent one was last week, where I am, because I'm from Wall Street and I understand capital flows, I'm worried about the tariffs because it could change the psychology in the market. And the president has such great momentum, Judge. 18 fantastic economic months. Yeah. Let's dial into this thing surgically with great precision so that we don't blow the momentum and the positive optimism and psychology in the economy. But I think the president's on the right track.
Quickly before we go, he made it real clear. He said, we make a car and China taxes it 25% when it gets over there. They make a car and we charge them 2.5%, which they don't pay. I mean, that's real simple to me.
Well, yeah, that's correct. If you sell a Harley Davidson in Germany, a $9,000 Harley Davidson here is $24,000 there. So the president is 100% correct about the system. He's rattling everybody's cage. I think it will be effective. But what I don't want to have happen is any of the great momentum that he's created in this economy for these workers that he was talking to tonight. I don't want any of that to be deflated, Judge. Okay. But he's on course. And I think what he did with Juncker last week was a great sign of the things to come by the end of the year. I do predict lower tariffs and more free trade for the world as a result of President Trump.
Anthony Scaramucci, so good to have you on. Thanks so much.
Hey, great to be here.
Thanks. And more from President Trump tonight coming up. Plus, Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA. But next, Dinesh D'Souza out with a new film. Joins me next with a review and his thoughts on tonight's rally and more. Justice rolls on in a moment.
Grab this. Now, we have a couple of places where I won by 30 and 40 points, and it could very well be that they come and vote for us, senators, Democrats. Could very well be. We'll see what happens. But on the assumption that they don't, because they do talk. A few of them say nicer things about me than any Republican. A couple of them compare me to some of the greats. I talk about Abe Lincoln, Honest Abe. No, they say great things.
President Trump saying some compare him to Honest Abe Lincoln at tonight's rally. My next guest agrees, and he really knows how to rile up the liberal left. His brand new movie, Death of a Nation, Can We Save America a Second Time, hit theaters across the country yesterday. Take a look at this clip.
Lincoln was elected to unite a country and stop slavery. Democrats smeared him, went to war against him, assassinated him. Who are the real fascists?
Zion ist ausgebrochen!
Both Mussolini and Hitler set up and ran welfare states.
This was done by the do-gooders, the liberals, the people who wanted to improve society.
Filmmaker and New York Times best-selling author Dinesh D'Souza joins me now. First of all, Dinesh, congratulations. I understand you've had some incredible premieres with some very distinguished guests at those premieres. But how do you interpret what the president said tonight based on your book, which I have read? I have actually read it, Death of a Nation, and it's excellent. Talk to me.
Well, on the movie poster, of course, we morphed the head of Lincoln and Trump. So it's kind of appropriate that Trump is picking up this theme. Now, of course, this outrages a lot of people because they think, how dare you compare Trump and Lincoln? Now, on the face of it, Trump and Lincoln temperamentally are quite different, right? Here's Lincoln. He's brooding. He's melancholy. He's philosophical. So I wouldn't say that temperamentally they're the same, but their situations are eerily similar. In 1860, an outsider candidate, a Republican, enters the race, wins it narrowly. In fact, wins it only because it's a three-man race. And the moment that he's elected, all hell breaks loose. The Northern Democrats openly called for his assassination. The Southern Democrats proved that they're willing to break the country up rather than abide a Lincoln presidency. So here we are 150 years later, and we have an outsider, Trump, who wins unexpectedly a close election. And the same party, the Democrats, go nuts. Yeah. And to this day, 2 years after the election,
they're still nuts.
They're still nuts. and so the movie looks at the themes of fascism and racism, which are the two incendiary bombs that the left is using to try to delegitimize Trump. Basically say he's ineligible to be the president, even if people voted for him.
Even if he's got, 307 electoral votes or whatever the number was. But why is the issue of fascism so on the tip of everyone's tongues? How does that connect?
Where do you get the license, if I may say so, to trump an electoral majority in a democratic society? There's only one place. The only analogy that works is Hitler circa 1933. Because you and I would agree that if we were living in Germany and Hitler came to power, and remember the Nazi party was the largest party in Germany, and if Hitler was democratically elected, I think you and I would agree that would be terrible enough that we would be justified in using, quote, any means necessary to get rid of him. So the left is taking that logic and applying it to Trump.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that they say he's a racist and he's a white supremacist. So all this kind of incendiary poison is used to basically legitimize all the craziness that the left has been doing, from violence to attempts to engineer a legal coup. So our movie basically takes them at their word. We say, okay, let's look at fascism. Is it not a fact that Mussolini, the founder of fascism, was a leftist? He was a Marxist. He was a lifelong socialist. Let's look at Hitler. What's the name of his party? The National Socialist Party. Let's look at the Nazi 25-point agenda, because they campaigned on that. State control of banks, state control of healthcare, state control of education, state control of religious liberty. Exactly. No sane person can read this and say this is on the right. And then I look at the fascism of today, the left using the weapons of the state against their opponents. I mean, the key move of the Nazis was the party is the state. Remember, the Nazi party basically became the state.
Right.
And this is what the Democrats have been doing. Yeah, and also using the state to neutralize your critics.
Okay. And now when the police are standing down in some cases, that's neutralizing not just the critics, but it allows the left to go forward with illegal activity. And also the whole idea of shutting down free speech, vandalizing the property of anyone on the right, assaulting, creating the crowd, as Maxine Waters calls it.
I just wish, Mussolini had these paramilitary fighters called the black shirts. And I just wish Mussolini, if he were to see what's going on today with Antifa, these guys wear black costumes, they carry bats and truncheons, they beat up their opponents. The only difference between them and Mussolini's black shirts is that these guys call themselves anti-fascist, but they look like fascists, and they act like fascists.
And looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. All right, Dinesh D'Souza, Death of a Nation. Thanks so much for being here. Congratulations on your movie.
Thank you very much.
All right, and Charlie Kirk with this week's most outrageous statements on deck. And next, the panel poised for action. Steve Levy and Chris Hahn will debate tonight's rally and much more. Justice rolls on in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Anita Vogel. New tensions between the U.S. and North Korea. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warning China and other countries against violating sanctions on Pyongyang. Pompeo saying Washington would take seriously any action that reduces pressure on the North to abandon its nuclear weapons. The North is now responding by calling recent actions by the U.S., quote, alarming. This latest back and forth coming during a security forum in Singapore. Evacuation orders now lifted for parts of Lynchburg, Virginia, after fears of a dam failure ease. Days of heavy rain pushed the dam to the brink of failure on Friday, threatening homes in its path with at least 17 feet of water. Engineers say they have stabilized the dam and it is safe for now. Authorities will continue to monitor the dam, but for now, people can return to their homes. I'm Anita Vogel. Now let's take you right back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
The unemployment rate for Americans without a high school diploma, this just came out 2 days ago, and I figure I might as well tell you because they won't say it. Without a diploma, high school, is at the lowest level ever recorded, right? How good is that? Economic growth last quarter hit 4.1. You all know that. You all know this too. Remember, I used to say, because they always voted Democrat. It was like automatic. The African-American unemployment rate has achieved the lowest level ever recorded in history.
President Trump's rousing speech in Ohio tonight covering a lot of ground. The success of the economy, a major topic. So let's get right to it with my political panel. Joining me tonight, former Suffolk County executive and former New York State Assemblyman Steve Levy and former senior aide to Senator Schumer and radio show host Chris Hahn. All right, gentlemen, Steve, welcome to Justice. Let's start with the economy. Unemployment of those with high school diplomas, it is at its lowest level ever recorded. So, Chris, how you Democrats going to counter that one?
Hey, look, it's a good number. I don't begrudge it. I give the president some credit for it. It continues the trend started with Obama. Unemployment was on its way down when the president took over. It's continued to go down. But look, In 2014, President Obama had two of his strongest GDP quarters, over 5% in quarter 2 and quarter 3, right before the midterm elections. He still lost seats in the House, and they lost control of the Senate. So those numbers, while they will help a president get reelected, do not necessarily translate into congressional wins. Congressional wins are about a lot of things. The economy is definitely one of them, but it is not a driving force.
Steve.
Well, first of all, Judge, it was great being at your book signing. Thanks for signing my book. It's an incredible read, by the way.
Thank you.
You know, looking at the last year of the Obama administration, we had a very sluggish 1.6% growth rate. Many were saying that's the new normal.
Right.
It doesn't have to be. President Trump came in and said, we could do better. We're going to cut taxes and let's see what happens. Look at what's happened. 4% growth in this last quarter. Consumer confidence, the highest level since the year 2000.
20 years.
Unemployment, 3.9%, the lowest level in 20 years. Food stamps, way down.
Yeah, 3 million
applications for
people
temporary
off.
assistance, way down.
Right. All right. So, Chris, I mean, what Steve is saying is the facts are the facts. And so when you talk about 5.1 with Obama and yet he still lost, that's got nothing to do with it. It's really about sustainability. And what the president and what Steve are saying is, you know, we've got all of the factors here for the sustainability of the economy. And when the Democrats say they're going to raise taxes, you think that helps?
Well, look, I agree it's about sustainability. And the president's total GDP since he took office is about where Obama's was. Maybe it's a small percentage point higher,
really?
A decimal point higher.
Read my book.
Yeah, absolutely. in his entire 19-month presidency, and in fact, the last 19 months of the Obama presidency, the economy created more jobs than they have in the first 19 months of the Trump presidency.
Really? Go
so
ahead,
while
Steve.
it is, those are the numbers, those are the facts. Google it. You could look it up.
Is that true, Steve?
Well, President Obama's administration is the only one since World War II that did not have at least a 3% growth for a total year. The president right now is on pace to exceed 3% for the whole year. But look at the other numbers. Manufacturing is up. It's booming. Manufacturing is up to its highest level since 2007. Construction jobs are way up. That inures to the benefit of the middle class. So Chris is correct that economics isn't everything, especially in a midterm. But it does help. You know, normally the party in power loses on those off years. There was an anomaly. 1998 with President Clinton. He had a very strong economy at the time. You have a very strong economy here.
Wow.
So if there's anything that can break that trend, it's the strong economy that we're seeing today.
There was another factor in 1998. In 1998, Steve, as you remember, the factor was that the Republicans overreached in impeaching the president. If the Democrats overreached,
wait a minute. He lied before the grand jury. Are you kidding? That's why Clinton lost his law license. He lied in front of the grand jury. Don't talk about overreaching. You want to go Russia collusion? Don't start with me, Chris.
Hey, look, if we're talking lying is the standard for impeachment, we're going to have a lot of impeachments.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I doubt there's going to be. Go ahead, Steve.
But, you know, Democrats might be making the same mistake as Republicans did in 98. You're right, Chris. There was an overreach there, and the public reacted negatively. You might be seeing that this year as well, which is why Democratic leadership is trying to tell all its minions through their talking points, stop talking about impeachment because it can backfire.
Chris?
Well, I agree. It would be an overreach to make impeachment the issue this year. It would be a complete overreach to make impeachment the issue, and it would be an overreach to impeach unless there's something really there to impeach about. So the Democrats have to be careful, or they're going to hand Trump a 2020 victory.
Chris, I'm going to keep a record of what you just said because I think you believe it.
Hey.
Do you?
I do believe it. I always tell you what I believe.
Okay. All right. Steve Levy, welcome to Justice. It's good to have you on. Chris Hahn, thanks for being with us, guys.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
Thank you.
Brandon Straka of the Walkaway campaign is standing by. But next, Madonna makes it to a very distinguished list, and it's not the Billboard Top 100. Charlie Kirk is here to tell us all about this week's most outrageous statements. President Trump continues to be a target in the mainstream media. Take a listen to this one, made about him after his Thursday rally.
There's no way anyone who knows Donald Trump but is not bought in some way could watch him last night and not come away with a feeling that the President of the United States is completely unhinged and getting worse by the day.
And that's just one of the most outrageous things I've heard this week. So joining me now with a reaction to that and more, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. All right, Charlie, there isn't any way anyone who knows Donald Trump, unless they're bought in some way, doesn't think he's totally unhinged. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I couldn't disagree more. Actually, and the American people disagree with that. He's getting more and more popular. And here's the stunning thing about the Trump presidency. Despite unprecedented media backlash and targeting, he is going against historical trends. Usually presidents get less popular in their first 18 months. He's getting more popular. In fact, he's now at 50% approval rating in the latest Rasmussen poll, and Rasmussen was the most accurate poll before the 2016 election. His approval rating with black Americans was 13% a year ago. Now it's at 29%. Hispanic approval rating is up 10 points. So look, Mika, I may be in the Morning Joe circle. They all think he's unhinged, but the American people, the more of Trump that they see, the more they like.
You know, Charlie, I got to tell you, if somebody's unhinged with all the hits he's been taking, I mean, anybody else would buckle and be in a corner. This guy's out fighting the fight every day. He gets energy from this stuff. Yes. He really does. And who benefits from it? We do. But speaking of Madonna is suggests Donald Trump motivated her to move to Portugal. Take a listen. It's a full screen. I felt like we needed a change, and I wanted to get out of America for a minute. As you know, this is not America's finest hour. Not that leaving America makes anything different or changes anything. Charlie, what's this woman talking about?
Well, this is actually a really interesting example. We as conservatives, we remain loyal and patriotic no matter who is president of the United States.
Isn't that the
Liberals
truth?
base their love or their lack of love of America based on whether or not their team member is president of the United States. Look, Judge, when Obama was president, I was just as loyal and committed American as I am today. It doesn't matter who's president of the United States. We believe in the idea of America. We believe in our history and our heritage and our people. Liberals like Madonna, they dismiss America if there's a Republican in the White House. Yeah. And that is the huge distinction going on in America. Are you thankful to be an American, or are you angry to be in America right now? And many liberals are angry when we should be pouring out our gratitude that we're able to live in this country at this time with this president. And you see Madonna as a perfect example of this.
Well, you know, sometimes I think the people who hate America so much with Donald Trump as president should rethink their address. But that's just me. All right. Kathy Griffin. She's always good for outrageous. All right. This tweet. Trump and his administration are the enemy of the American people. Charlie?
Well, look, I mean, the president is the ally and the friend of the American people. And look, now let's just add some context for viewers at home that might not remember. Kathy Griffin was about a year ago posed a picture with a decapitated head of the president of the United States, and then tried to play the victim 48 hours later because she was upset everyone was going after her. Now, imagine for a second that a conservative did that horrific stunt with Barack Obama's head. They would have been investigated by the Secret Service,
they've been
castigated.
Arrested. Forget investigated. They'd be taken out in cuffs.
With a hate crime. Exactly. And the fact these people still take her seriously, that she's going on a comedy tour, is just that. It's comedy. And look, the left, like we keep on saying they're losing their minds. I doubt if they had those in the first place. But here's the thing. Trump is the ally of the American people. He is fighting. He is winning. And the liberal elites like Mika, Madonna, and Kathy Griffin, hey, the more they talk, the more popular Trump gets. As I said earlier, unlike other historical trends, Donald Trump is getting more popular with time, and we're just getting started.
And, you know, the amazing part of it is, you know, the whole idea of the lowest unemployment ever for people with just high school diplomas. And I don't mean to say just, but with high school diplomas. I mean, it's across the board, this positive economy. Anyway, Charlie Kirk, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
You bet, Judge.
All right.
Thanks. Congrats on
He walked away from the left and he walked right into justice. Walkaway Campaign founder Brandon Straka is straight ahead with us with an update on his powerful movement. Well,
you're the great people. You're the great people. You work hard, you pay your taxes, you do all these things, and you were forgotten. They forgot about you. And you're the smartest people. You're the smartest people. You know, when they talk about the elite. The elite. Do you ever see the elite? They're not elite. You're the elite. You are the elite.
that's President Trump with quite the speech tonight at his rally. My next guest is the founder of the #Walkaway campaign. He's a former liberal whose movement now urges people to leave liberalism, which he says has become too intolerant. Brandon Straka joins me now. All right, good evening, Brandon. Last time you were here, you were on your way to the UK. You had just become a hit with your, with your documentation of all of the, the hysteria on the left and the lying hysteria. What's happened since then?
Well, a lot's happened since then. The Walkaway campaign has continued to grow and grow, and it's had a really amazing impact. People are really recognizing the video that I put out, but there's all, people are putting out their testimonials constantly, and it's really growing like wildfire, especially in these minority communities, which is what I love to see.
Okay, and the testimonials, I mean, do they attest to things that's happened to them, or, what they see as, untruth or fake?
It's a combination of all of those things, because we see and we hear these stories every day about violence, vandalism, incredibly petty and destructive behavior. But even in people's personal lives, I mean, people are being cut off by their siblings. They're being cut off by their best friends. They're, just for saying, look, I support the president. They're losing their jobs. I mean, it's crazy.
And, it's even worse than that. I mean, the president's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, as well as a cabinet member's boat, as well as cabinet members being thrown out of restaurants, and the press secretaries, and being thrown out of grocery stores. I mean, I've had my own issue with being basically thrown off a set and out of building.
I heard about that.
Did you? In the UK?
I did, yes.
But this intolerance, I mean, do people not understand how un-American that is?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, we've gone beyond anti-Trump. It's blatantly anti-American. And sort of like Charlie Kirk was saying a moment ago, too, I mean, for 8 years, conservatives stood by as they watched the erosion of American ideals under the Obama administration. We didn't see anything like this. And I can actually say I was a liberal at that time. I was an Obama supporter. And I'm here to tell you, I did not see people on the right behaving this way.
And what is it that you saw on the left that caused you're a liberal, you're gay, talk to me. Why?
Well,
and to step out, because a lot of people who stepped out, they get in a lot of trouble with the right, with the left.
Well, I think that the left has done a really successful job of pushing this narrative of victimhood and oppressors. And for many of us on the left, myself included, we bought into it. So it was like, I became a liberal because I was against racism and judging.
We're all against racism.
Right, but I didn't know that. I didn't know, because the common idea is that people on the right hate, they're white people who hate black people, they hate Hispanic people, they hate gay people, they, hate. This is what we hear over and over again. But for me, when the light bulb really started to go on in my head was when I started to say, hey, I'm over here because I'm against all these things, but you guys hate white people. You guys hate straight people. You guys hate men. So in my mind, these things aren't any better.
But that's what I talked about in my open tonight. The Sarah Jong, the woman from the New York Times, and the New York Times dug their heels in and they said, we're keeping her. She's at the police. She hates whites. She hates men.
Right.
And her excuse in the Times bought it is, well, I feel like I've been harassed.
Right.
Really?
Well, this is how liberal ideology sort of, gets ingrained in our culture. It's through the media, it's through the entertainment industry, and it's through our education system. And what happened with the New York Times is just tacit approval from them saying, this is okay. I mean, Roseanne lost her show.
Yeah.
Lost her show. But the New York Times is standing by this woman who, by the way, these tweets go back to 2013. This is more than 5 years of virulently racist tweets, and they're standing by her because what they say is, well, she's an Asian American woman, so by default she's a victim in this, she's a victim of racism in this country. Right. And so the white people that she has made these tweets about, they deserve it. Because,
right, we deserve it. And by the way, when you say 5 years, the New York Times says they're old tweets. I mean, 2015 is old. I mean, it's crazy.
No, it's crazy.
All right, so real quickly, what's your next plan? What are you up to next?
Oh, we have really big things planned for the Walkaway campaign. I can't say exactly today what I'd like to say, but I'd like to have you to have me back on your show so I can announce it.
All right, well, that's a good tease.
Yes.
Brandon Strack, thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back, everybody.